In the interest of time, we'll get going. I know some people are still rolling in here, but it is 6:30, so we will get rolling with all of that. I'm Brian Bruckman, one of the high school counselors. I'm going to be doing part of the presentation tonight. In the back, running the computer right now, is Karina Rotondo. She's going to be doing a little bit of this as well. So we've got about maybe a 45-minute presentation for you, and we'll have some time at the end for some questions answered. We can do them as a group, and then you can also come up and ask us individually if you want to. So first of all, we appreciate you coming by after we had to reschedule this. Didn't know what last week's storms were going to bring. They were going to be supposed to be pretty bad, didn't turn out to be bad, but we didn't want to get caught in the auditorium with. Thank you for coming back. This is also going to be, it's being videoed right now, and it will be on the district website as well as on the counseling website. So take as many notes as you want, but everything we talk about, you're going to be able to see and hear as many times as you want to. So this is just called College 101, and essentially what we want to do, we're going to be doing this in the English classes. So next week, so students, if you're here, apologize, you're just going to get a double dose of this in your English classes, but we'll do this with students next week. And we wanted to essentially take you through everything you should be doing between now and the whole college admissions process. What to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to find it, answer all the questions that you may have that come up. I myself have finishing up this process with my oldest daughter. She is a senior, so we just made our final college decision 2 days ago. So I've kind of already been through one cycle of this, so we're in pretty good shape. So. First thing I think we should be doing is in regards to communication. So email-wise, as soon as you start to do anything related to colleges or tests or anything else like that, and I see some smiles in the audience, as soon as you start to do anything like that, that email gets circulated amongst lots of different people. So whatever email you start to use, student or parent-wise, is going to start to get flooded with a lot of information from different colleges that you maybe never heard of, didn't apply to, didn't have anything to do with. So if you have your personal one that you plan on using for however long, you may want to create a different professional sounding email address that you use just for college stuff and just for scholarship things. A lot of times also our students may have created their first email address when they were 8 and it was based on some cartoon character or whatever, so we're now 17 or 18 and it doesn't necessarily sound as professional as what something else may. So you might want to think about doing that. And that email might just be something that you use just for college stuff, college and scholarship things. So when you are done with the whole college process and scholarship stuff and ready to send them off to college, you maybe are done with that email address and don't have to worry about that again. So what should we be doing? So we're sitting here on April 19th right now. The one thing that you should be doing more than anything else is just seeing what's out there. You do not have to know exactly what you want to do when you graduate high school and what you want to do for the rest of your life. You're 16 years old, 17 years old. You don't have to do that. And even if you do, chances are that might change. So it's perfectly fine if you don't have an idea of what you want to do for the rest of your life. Okay, so right now what you should be doing is just seeing what's out there. Do you have a list of schools? Do you have some things that sound interesting to you or to kids for whatever reason? We should just start to search and see what's out there. So when you're looking at those schools, if you start to have a list, start to figure out like, what are they looking for? What kind of grade point average am I going to need to get in there? Do I have that grade point average? Am I close? Do they need AP classes? Do they have the major that I want to go to? So try to start getting a list together and searching just to see what's out there. Because really when we come back, I don't want to fast forward all the way through summer, but when we come back in the fall of our senior year, that's when we want to have the list, okay? The list of 4, 5, 6, 7 schools that we're going to be applying to. It may fluctuate a little bit, but when we come back in September, that's when we really should have narrowed this all down to what we're going to apply to. So right now, between now and summer, we're just checking things out. Okay. Make campus visits. It's really cool just to check some stuff out on websites, but you can't replace anything that you can't go to a campus for. That's just, it's a different experience. And it's great if you're just driving through a campus and you want to stop with mom and dad, but really you can't get that same experience just walking around campus that you can if you sign up for some campus visits. It's really easy to do. They don't try to hide it or make it difficult to find. Each of your children represents $100,000+ so they want you to be able to get on campus as much as you want to. Okay, so you're either going to find that on a admissions webpage or under the actual college, but they don't make it difficult to find. So they have all sorts of different things where you can just schedule a visit, or as you get closer to summer, they'll have some different things like Michigan State will have green and white days where they put on a whole different program and everything for prospective students. But if you're scheduling that campus visit, you're going to be meeting with the admissions. They're going to have a presentation for you that you won't get just walking through campus on your own. You will get the guided tour. You'll get to go through classrooms and see what the classroom looks like. You'll get to go through a dorm room and see what a sample dorm room looks like to see where you're going to live for 9 months out of the year. Depending on what type of event it is, you can also eat in the cafeteria or one of the cafeterias or restaurants, almost like they have in college now. We did that at Western the other day and had the whole tour of everything. So that is a great thing. You also, every year we'll have kids who sit in our offices and tell us that they want to go to a particular school. And then they get there and it's like, oh, that didn't feel right. My own daughter, her sitting here a year ago on her list, her top priority was Grand Valley State. Wonderful. We got to Grand Valley State. It was walking around, we got into the dorms and she looked at the dorms and they had a small kitchen and a small bedroom and off to each side, and you could just see the air going out of her face. So right then and there I knew that Grand Valley was out. But we didn't know that until we got to campus. Okay. She also liked Michigan State. I was talking to another parent a minute ago. We got done with our third visit to Michigan State and it's like, well, what did you think? It's big. Yep. It's the same size as it was the first 2 times we were there. But you don't know that until you actually get there. You know, like I also took her, another phenomenal school is Miami of Ohio. We went there. Great programs, beautiful campus. If you've ever been down there, it's one of the public Ivy League colleges. So they make all the buildings look really, really old. And, you know, kind of like the Ivy League schools, even though they're brand new. And I'm like, well, what'd you think? The buildings look old. Okay, so, but all these things are like, you have to get on campus. We also have kids who are like, Saline's small. I mean, there are 1,600 kids here, but Saline's small. I got to get out. I got to get someplace big. And then they go to Hope or Kalamazoo or something. They get on campus and it's like, wow, this feels like home. Okay, so it's all kind of about, we want it to be about the feel and not necessarily the name of things. So, but you can't do that until you really get on campus. We talked about creating a list of schools you're interested in. You can do that right now. It doesn't mean you're tied to it. It doesn't mean you have to apply there. And even if you apply to someplace, it doesn't mean you have to go there. Okay, but right now it's just that whole thing of getting a list. Not every school is going to require a letter of recommendation. In fact, most of them do not. Okay. But as you're looking at schools, if you're running across something, for instance, we have a large percentage of our students apply to U of M. U of M is going to require a letter of recommendation. So look on their website under admissions and do they require one? And who do they require it from? Most often, if they require a letter of recommendation, it's not going to be from a counselor, it's going to be from a core teacher. Math, science, English, social studies, or foreign language. Because that's what you're going to be doing when you're on campus is you're going to be taking classes. And I want to see how you were in core classes. So if they require one, that's who you're going to want to target. If they require one, sometime in May, in the next month, go up to that teacher, like, who did you have a good relationship with? Who did you have a good grade in, work ethic, all that stuff? Who do you want to ask? And then ask them, see if they would write you a positive letter of recommendation for the fall. See if they need anything from you. A lot of times teachers might give you some questions that they want you to answer. They might want a resume, whatever it is. And then some teachers in the summer is when they write their letters. Some people don't do it till fall. But either way, when you come back in the fall, just ask them again, you know, hey, Mr. Schmier, you said last spring you would write me a positive letter of recommendation. Do you need anything else from me? I'm going to put and Mr. Tondo will talk about that in a minute on Common App. I'm going to put your email into Common App and you will get a notification on how to upload that. Okay. So if they need one, that's how you go about doing it. Okay. Also, when we talk about colleges and supplemental pieces of information, more is not always better. Okay. So if it says I need a letter, kids will always go, well, can I send 2? Yes, but if you ask Mrs. Smith and Mr. Jones, are they going to say the exact same thing about you? So if they are, they don't need 2 people to confirm that you're a good kid. Okay? Maybe you're getting something from a coach, an employer, or somebody else, or a different type of teacher who's going to talk differently about you. Okay? Summer, once again, summer's great. Kids are off. It's a good time to visit schools. The only problem is you walk on campus and nobody's there. So Michigan State might not look really huge in the summer because 40-some thousand students are home, but it is a good time to visit because kids are off and you guys are doing vacations and things like that. And that's also a good time, too, where they're going to have a lot of those particular days. State's green and white days are in the summer, so they have those planned events and things like that. So summer's a good time to do it. It's just you're not going to get the same effect because the college kids aren't there. We talked about making the campus visits and how important that is. Everything really is application-wise is going to open up August 1st. Okay, so you do not need to do your entire application over the summer. However, it is a good idea to maybe get a head start on it, especially if you have to do any essays. Okay, you may work in the summer, you may play sports, you may take vacations and things, but once school starts, you're back in the swing of taking 5 classes. You're doing a sport, you're doing something else. So time is busier once school starts again. So a lot of times, if you need to do some essays, summer's a good time to kind of start on those. But once again, don't feel you have to have everything done. It's just a good time to start on stuff. Work on your application plan. So one of the things that we want to make sure that everybody does, and we'll talk about admission dates and things like that, but know whatever date you're going to be applying for and when that is, okay? So most of the time, we're going to encourage all of our students to have everything done by November 1st, okay? So when we say by November 1st, that means middle of October. So we don't want to submit stuff like last minute, especially if it is a November 1st deadline and you submit something last minute. An admissions department is going to look at it and go, like, how serious do you really want to come here if you submitted this on Halloween? Okay, so know our application deadlines, know what other outside activities you have, and kind of plan that out so you're not doing everything last minute. How do you figure out what's right for you? Hopefully students have a good idea in terms of what your GPA is. You're going to have a weighted GPA and an unweighted GPA. Once again, go back on schools that interest you and find out what are they looking for with incoming freshmen. Like, what's the average GPA? Once again, I say this with a grain of salt. I went to Central, and if you look at Central's average GPA for an incoming freshman, it's something like a 3.8. You do not need to have a 3.8 to go to Central. I can attest to that, okay? But that's taking into account there's students who have 4.0s and also students who have less than that, okay? So just check out and see what your GPA is versus what your schools are looking for, okay? It's okay if you may not fit that profile to still apply there. That's what's called a reach school. But we also want to make sure that wherever you're applying, you're at least going to get into one of those, okay, based off of your academic stuff. Okay, a lot of schools, unlike Michigan's and things like that, will just really base admissions on, like, what's your GPA? Okay, so some schools, the Central, Western stuff, there's not a heck of a lot that might go into an application, but you want to at least make sure you know what your GPA is. Your juniors in here, you just got done taking the SAT not too long ago. Most schools aren't requiring tests anymore, but once again, some still are. So check out, does your potential schools, do they need a test? And if they do, what kind of score do they need to get in? Okay. Some schools may not also require tests, but they might want to test for certain scholarship stuff. So once again, checking some of those things out. If you go do any campus visits, those are also good questions to start to ask any admissions reps. This is that thing where we talk about taking the name off of a school, okay? A lot of times we're, 10 minutes from U of M and kids will go to football games and whatnot, and they'll tell us, well, I want to go to U of M. And you'll ask them, not that it's not a great school, it is, but you'll ask them why, and they look at you like, well, it's a good school. Well, yes, but why do you want to go there? So what we want kids to do is, like, what's important to you? Okay, how far away do you want to be from home? How close do you want to be from home? Are we going to a 4-year school? Are we going to a 2-year school? It's not free. What's the cost of all this stuff? Do they have the majors? Sometimes kids want to get away to someplace warmer. So what is important to students and who has that criteria? That's really kind of what we want to be looking for. Okay, so start to figure out what some of those things are that are important to students to start looking at schools. Talked about researching school, visiting campus, and then know how colleges are going to evaluate you. They're not always going to do it the same. When we start to talk about, I'm not going to tailor all this to Michigan, but we have a lot of students go to Michigan or apply and go to Michigan. They're going to want our kids to have a certain number of AP classes. They're going to want our students to have 20 or more core credits over the course of high school. They're going to want this. They're going to want leadership stuff and all sorts of different things to where, Eastern Michigans of the world are not going to want all those things. They're really just going to want to know what your grade point is. Okay. So know how they're going to evaluate you. And if you don't know that or can't find that, that's what your counselors are for. We work with colleges a lot. We're more than happy to help you sit down and see what they're looking for. What we did for my daughter, and I would encourage this, is if you do start to research a lot of schools and do start to make campus visits, when you're done, sit down and create a Google sheet for each school, and like, for instance, some things that we have, like, when's the due date? What's the average GPA I need? Do I need to have tests? What's the cost? Am I going to get any scholarship type money? Just so you're starting to compare all these things. Because essentially what you want to be able to do is after you've done all your applications, you've got your decisions, you maybe have done FAFSA and you know how much everything's going to cost, and then sit down as a family and see, okay, based on all these factors, where do I want to go? Like, what's in, what's out? Okay. But it's kind of hard to remember all these things that you might have thought about a particular campus 3 months after you've been there. So that's something that we did that we found helpful. We are going to go into classrooms next week, like we talked about, and we're going to do some different things with the students. One of them is going to go over some presentation like this that's very similar. We're also going to do a different thing called College Match, where we are going to take all those different things, filters for criteria, and ask kids what's important to them. And as they start to, it's through Naviance, but as they start to find all these things that are important to them, it'll start to populate which schools have those things. So hopefully after next week, your kids might have a good idea in terms of like, well, I wanted to get away, to the South, and I wanted to be in business, and I wanted whatever else. And here's a list of schools that had that. So maybe I start to look at some of those things. But we're going to do that next week with the kids. There's also different websites you can use. CapEx is pretty good, Big Future, College Match, Peterson's. So there's a bunch of them out there, but that's that thing in terms of like what's important to you and looking at who has those things. What do you need for college admissions? First thing you're going to need is a transcript. We are going to go over in May, I believe, when one of the Hornet times, we're going to meet with all the juniors and we're going to have them create what's called a Parchment account. So Parchment is, I think there's a slide on there that Ms. Murtado is going to do, so I'll let her talk about that. But every school is going to need your high school transcript. They're also looking at trends, okay? Like, it's okay to have had a bad trimester here or there, depending on where you want to go to school, but they want to see, are you trending up or are you trending down? You start off really well as a freshman and sophomore, and for whatever reason, you went from a 3.5 down to a 2.7. Like, what happened? If you're trending down, I have to assume that you're going to continue trending down versus, wow, you had a 2.3 your first 2 trimesters as a freshman, and then you figured it out. You ended up with 3.8s or higher the rest of the time. You can't undo that 2.3, but you're trending upward. So whatever you did to figure it out, I have to assume as a college that you're going to continue trending upward. Okay, so they do look at trends also. Some schools are going to look at standardized test scores, some are not. Mr. Tom is going to talk about Common App in a minute. There's places on applications where they'll ask you the question, do you want your test or application to be read with a test score or without a test score? And it's just a pull-down menu. If you say without, it'll just go on to the next question. So that is a thing. It started to be a thing when COVID hit, and then colleges realized that the kids who came here without test scores, they did just as well as the kids who with the test scores. So it's really getting to be a thing, and there's not a ton more that our kids will apply to where they actually require it. U of M still requires some kind of a test score, whether it be AP or something else like that, but most schools do not. So Michigan State, I think last year went to a 6-year plan of not doing test scores. So depending on where you are going to be applying, they also want to know what type of extracurricular activities and community service things have you done. It's okay if you haven't, but just understand the more selective schools that you're going to be applying to, they're going to want more information on you, okay? So, you don't need to have been in 75 clubs because you're in a ton of different clubs. I can also tell you probably didn't do a whole lot in those clubs. Have you been in 2, 3? Can you talk about what you've done? Did you hold any leadership positions? How many hours of different things did you do? Okay. So there's going to be places for you to talk about all that stuff on your application. Some schools, we talked about letters of recommendation if they require it. Not every school also is going to require an essay. Okay. A lot of them do, especially if you're talking about the Common App, which Mr. Tondo will talk about in a minute. There is going to be an essay that their students are going to have to work on there. We talked about any leadership positions that you have. Were you section leader in band? Were you vice president of Connecting Club? Were you captain of whatever? Okay, did you hold any leadership positions? And all these different activities and positions do not have to happen at Saline High School. So if you've done some things outside of school, that's great. So not everything has to be involved in Saline High School. And then I bring this one up because a lot of our students do want to go to Lake Michigan. And a big thing with Lake Michigan is your expressed desire to attend that particular school. So when you start to get into more selective schools, they want to know why you want to go there and not necessarily a school like that. Okay, so if any of your students are going to be applying to Michigan, one of the essays that they're going to write is, why Michigan? Okay, it's specific. So you need to talk about specifically why that school as opposed to someplace else. If I'm applying to something in the Ivy Leagues, I don't know why. I don't care why you want to go to an Ivy League school. I want to know why you want to go to Brown, where I'm at. Okay, so more selective, it's going to be your expressed desire to attend that particular school. Also, if you have gone to any college visits, if you've gone to anything where you've met with a college rep, if you've gone to camps, if you've gone to anything on a college campus, you get flagged. Okay? So every time you give an email out, every time you sign up for something, your student gets flagged. Flagged is a good thing, okay? So when you start to apply, I can see, okay, this kid applied to U of M. He's been to the computer camp. He's met with Haley, our rep, 2 times. He's gone on 2 campus visits. That's 5 things that this kid's done. He really seems to know that he wants to go here. That's awesome, okay? And some schools are going to ask different things, so any other type of admissions criteria that they may need. How to apply to colleges. Everything's going to be done online. I should probably take that off because we put that on there a while ago when there still was some paper and pencil things, but everything is going to be online. Once again, they don't make it difficult to find out how to apply. It's going to be on the actual homepage or on the undergraduate admissions website. A lot of students are going to be using the Common App. Ms. Rotondo is going to talk about that. She's making her way up here. But there's over 1,000 colleges who use that. So most of them in the state of Michigan will use that. And some will give you the option of using the Common App or the actual school's application. But Ms. Rotondo will talk about that in a second. And when you apply, there's generally going to be 3 different types of ways you're going to apply. You're going to be applying to what's called the rolling admission, which means there's not necessarily a due date. And the due date really is kind of May 1st, which is coming up when that's the national kind of signing date that everything has to be done by. You can certainly finalize everything and put your deposits down earlier, but rolling admission means there's not really a hard, fast due date. Early action. This is a common one, especially like with the U of M. They'll say if you get everything into us, your transcript, your application fee, if there's a test score, by generally November 1st, we guarantee that we will let you know a decision by January 15th. So it's not binding, doesn't mean you have to accept it, but if you do this, we'll do this. And then really selective schools will give you the option of doing like an early decision. There is a set deadline, but whatever that deadline is, if you get in, that's binding, meaning you're putting down a sizable non-refundable deposit that you don't get back if you say no. Okay? So once again, big thing, pay attention to what your school's deadlines are.
All right, everybody take a deep breath. It's a lot of information. So like Mr. Bruckman said, I'm Karina Rotondo. I'm one of the counselors here at Saline High School. I oversee students' last names A through D. So I just like to kind of put a face to my name for those of you who've heard me around. So I'm going to talk about Common App. So a lot of our juniors right now have probably heard their senior friends, scrambling, I got to finish my Common App. I've got to finish my Common App. What is Common App? So Common App is a platform that many schools use as their application process, and it opens up August 1st. So Mr. Bruckman referenced that before. But things you can do are like the essay prompts. Those have already been released. So if you're looking to do something over the summer or have your students start, they can look up what the Common App essay prompts are and get a head start on what those look like. So how do I do this? How do I sign up for Common App? So Common App, you'll need to create an account, and we have the link embedded in our presentation. It's www.commonapp.org, or you can hit apply now on the Common App school's website. So a lot of universities, as I mentioned, use Common App as their application platform. Not all schools use it, but a lot do. So what we like to say is if majority of the schools off of your list are using Common App as their application portal, do the Common App. So you can do this by going to the school's websites that might kick you automatically over to Common App through their application portal, or you can go to this website and create an account as well. So once you get onto Common App, what does it look like? Common App is all encompassing. It is a beast. It is a good beast, but you will find different tabs, and I'll walk you through what those look like and what you'll find under each tab. So once you get to Common App, you'll have a dashboard, and this is kind of what it will look like as you create an account. So this first tab that we're looking at is the My Colleges tab, and this is where you can select colleges to put into your Common App, and this is where you'll complete the college information that they need. So as we go forward, and we start to add colleges, this is kind of what it will look like. It'll show you information about admissions, contact information, address, what does the first year look like for your deadlines, so those will be right there for you, and also I'll tell you about your application fees as well. As you move over and you're going through the Common App, you'll see that the next tab is called Common App. And this is where you're going to really start putting in your information. So there'll be a profile, a family tab, education, testing, activities, writing. This is where you're going to start to complete your demographic information, and as well as some of the other activities that you do. Under each box and category, there's going to be subcategories. So make sure when you are starting to do the Common App and you start clicking through, make sure you're clicking through all the tabs and into the subcategories, and make sure you're completing every part of the Common App. Like I said, it's a lot of information that you're going to be putting into this portal, but this is where a lot of your schools are going to get that information about you. You are building yourself up in this portal, so please make sure you look through everything as you start to click through. So I want to talk about the writing tab a little bit. We talked about essays, but this is also a tab that's important to talk about any circumstances that you want these colleges to know about. Sometimes things happen in high school, right? We have to drop classes, we medically withdraw, things happen, and this is your opportunity to talk about that. Schools will get to see this, and this gives you your opportunity to explain some of the things you might have experienced in high school. So this is a great tab to do that. Sometimes students want to talk about their family life, divorce, if there was a death in the family, illness, things that they've conquered and want to, elaborate about and maybe explain, why was that one trimester a little worse than the other one? So this is their opportunity to do that. Also under the writing tab, this is where the written essay portions for the Common App will be located as well. You will select several topics, so you'll find them, and then you can select the ones that you would like to write about, and each are about between 250 and 650 words when you address the topic. So that will all be done in the Common App. But when we talked about the prompts that are already being released, you can look at those and kind of start typing those on a doc on the side, because you won't be able to really register and open up until August 1st, but this is where you'll kind of start inputting that data as you start to do that. So this is a big, important one. I want everybody to look at this for a long time. So a lot of students say, well, Ms. Rotondo, I added you to my Common App. And I said, well, no, you didn't. I didn't get an email. So this is the part of Common App under My Colleges. Once you start to complete the information, there'll be these subcategories. We're on the Recommenders and FERPA tab, and this is where your student will be adding their teachers who need to write letters of recommendation, and also they'll be adding their counselor. As Mr. Bruckman said, not all schools need a counselor letter of recommendation, but we do need to input information about your student. So this is where you'll be putting us into the system. You do have to, waive your FERPA and have us be able to speak on your behalf. But this is where you will add us. And we always say, please make sure our email addresses are correct, because sometimes our students will assume, I added you, did you get it? We never got it. And then, we're a day before the deadline and it's, oh, you put an A, not an O, right? So this is a good part for you to double check to make sure all the information is correct that you're putting in under the Recommenders and FERPA tab. All right, and then this is another little screenshot of the dashboard. So this is going to show you kind of where in progress you are with the application. On your dashboard, there is also going to be a list of all the colleges that you've selected. So if you need to go back and see, well, where did I all apply? Those will all be on your dashboard. For each college, you will need to complete the questions and the recommenders and FERPA portions in order for things to be complete. So like I said, if you feel like you've done a lot, go back and make sure you've done everything just so you feel good and secure about your application. All right, transcripts. So Mr. Bruckman briefly touched on transcripts. So this is how you are going to send transcripts to the universities that you apply for. So there are two main components of the application process. You are going to apply to the university and you are going to send your transcripts. Apply, send transcripts. These are two different steps. So in the Common App, there is a portion where you will be filling out the grades, the classes you've all taken. This is not your transcript. This is how you order your transcript. So as we said, we will have all of our juniors create a Parchment account and we will attach them to Saline High School, meaning once we get into Parchment, we want to make sure that we know that they are coming from Saline High School, so we know that we can find them in our system, and we will walk them through that. On your transcript will be a list of all of the classes you have taken for high school credit. There will also be all your grades, your GPA, your weighted GPA, class rank, all that good stuff. So this is a main component of the application process that some students forget to do. So we will get emails from admissions from schools like, hey, I got Joe's application, but I don't have a transcript. So it's kind of following up with those students to make sure that they actually send that. It's a pretty simple process. There's a big green button that says order now. You can't miss it. And it should be free, but we will walk your students through that. And then we also walk them through that process in the fall. So in the fall, all the counselors will sit down with every single senior and just check their status as far as how's the application process going? Are you familiar with how to send your transcript? If they're not, we go over all of this again. So if for some reason you feel ambitious and you go home tonight and try to set up the account and you're confused, just know that we will walk them through this as well. Also linked, we have Parchment directions. So as Mr. Bruckman said, this will be on our school website. You can click on this to see how to do that. And it's pretty simple as mentioned. And we'll be assisting them in doing this too. So, all right.
And we are throwing a lot of information at you tonight, so do understand, you can call us, you can email us, whatever, with questions and things. We will have an entire presentation for the senior class in the second week of the school year, where we go over a lot of the stuff again. Every senior will get an individual meeting time with us where we sit down and check their status and go over everything and answer all the questions and stuff that they have. So we're not leaving you guys out of this after tonight, so we're still there. Each college is going to need, like Mr. Tondo mentioned, that application and a transcript. We talked before about standardized test scores. You had to take the PSAT last week because it was a state of Michigan graduation requirement. You could have sent scores to schools at that point if you wanted to, but once again, many of you may not even know where you want to go, so you don't know if they need test scores or not. That's all. I'm not going to go over all that again. We did talk about letters of recommendation. The one thing just at the bottom is please don't ask somebody a week or two before you need a letter to get you a letter. So just be courteous with that and understand if you're asking teachers, they're doing lesson plans and grading papers and doing all that stuff too. So, and they do things outside of school too. So just give them a little bit of time. Scholarships, always important. Free money. So we will, in January, when the students come back as a senior for the last part of their senior year, we will have a local scholarship meeting with them. We have, gosh, probably 60 different scholarship types that we give away through the community. Students can apply. These local scholarships are only open to Saline High School seniors. So they give away, gosh, probably $100,000 or so in scholarship money that are only open to Saline High School seniors. So information will come back on that, but that will be in January of the senior year. There's also a lot of different places to find scholarships. So when you apply for admission, many times you're automatically being considered with your application for what's called merit-based scholarships, okay? And those are scholarships through the university, really based on like GPA or test score, okay? And you can find those right on the website. You can go to Grand Valley's website and you'll see the Laker Scholarship and all sorts of different stuff. So the merit-based ones are ones you're pretty much automatically considered for when you apply. There's also need-based scholarships through the university, and you're not automatically considered for those when you apply. Those are separate ones that you have to apply for. Some of those are pretty generic and where it'll say in financial need. Some will be specific where it's like someone from Oakland County who's going into business because somebody, alumni from Oakland County who owns a business, created a scholarship. Okay, but there's a lot of them on each school's website for need-based scholarships. There's also tons of different places to find scholarships. So there's different scholarship search sites. I always get nervous when I say that one too fast. But scholarship search sites, some pretty common ones are like fastweb.com, scholarships.com, collegescholarships.com. But once again, when we meet with your seniors next year, we will go over all of the different scholarship opportunities for them. Students generally look at scholarships after the whole application process, and the last thing that they really want to do after the application process is write an essay. But generally, people aren't giving away money for free without some type of essay. So a lot of times you might find that your students can use the same essay that they wrote for a college application for that, but just understand they're going to have to do something else outside of just put a name down. Financial aid. You're going to hear the words FAFSA a lot from here on out. It's free application for federal student aid. So we encourage all of our students, regardless of your financial status, to apply for FAFSA. A lot of times you may not also be able to be considered for scholarships through the university unless you've at least applied for FAFSA. Doesn't mean you have to have gotten it, but you have to have applied for it. Essentially, they want you to get somebody else's money before theirs. Okay, so FAFSA will open up October 1st. So we don't have a date yet, but every year we do this in September. We will have a financial aid night, so you will get information on that, but we will have a University of Michigan financial aid officer come in and talk to parents about financial aid and walk them through the whole FAFSA process. It's somebody through U of M, but that doesn't mean it's talking about University of Michigan. Financial aid is financial aid is financial aid, no matter where you go. So they're just going to be talking about that in general. But once again, when we start talking about important dates, there's the application date, but FAFSA, if you're doing the financial aid, is going to open October 1st. If you have to do essay writing, this comes straight from the University of Michigan. The number one thing that students don't do when they write an essay is answer the question. You may have written this beautiful essay, but you didn't answer anything that we asked about. Okay, so number one, make sure that you answer the question. Also, the number two thing that over the last few years that college admissions will tell you to is don't write about COVID, okay? Everybody who's applying to school there went through COVID, okay? Yes, it affected others differently than some, but everybody went through it. So they want you to look at some different things. Don't wait to do this. I say that now, but every year this is the last thing that kids generally do because it's something that they don't really want to do, to be honest with you. They're tired of writing, but don't wait. There's also no right answer. Students will do this a lot. Like, can you look this over and is this right? Did you answer the question? So they're not telling you if it's a right or wrong, but did you answer the question? Okay? When you start to do some of these things, it's phenomenal accomplishments to be in wind ensemble and to be on a football team and to be in National Honor Society. But realistically, a lot of students who are applying to those schools are also on the same things. Are there different things that are unique about you that might stand out that's different than the norm? So maybe look at some of that stuff. We also want to make sure that you, above all else, kind of proofread it. We don't want to send something in that has grammatical errors and things. Okay? So that's essay writing. Curly, can you grab that other microphone and maybe head down that? Oh. So at this point, that is our presentation.